if you're in Puerto Rico or you're in Guam or the Virgin Islands, the IRS is not involved because you're not paying U.S. income taxes. So basically, there was no penalty tax. Well, I did it for the obvious benefit of being able to keep most of what I own. I mean, that's not the case here in the United States. The government takes most of what I earn. But if I earn money in Puerto Rico, thanks to the fact that they finally reduced taxes there, I get to keep a lot more of what I earn. It's too bad that Puerto Rico didn't do this years ago, decades ago. They wouldn't be in the economic trouble they are today. They would be a shining bright spot in the United States. They would have the highest per capita income instead of the lowest.
It's very difficult for people to get that sort of an education, particularly in, is Puerto Rico thought of as a third world environment?
No,
it's not a country.
It's not third world, but let's say some kid came in here that had no experience whatsoever, but he wanted to learn. He wanted to just get you coffee and just sit around and be around you. He's not that productive.
Yeah, they use interns, right? A lot of radio stations do that, and they don't pay them anything.
I know, that's zero. That's $0 an hour.
I can't do that.
Well, then, but maybe you pay them $5 an hour, whatever it is. But people are going to accept a job that's the best one they can get. And so if somebody is working for $1 an hour or $2 an hour, by default, I know that they couldn't find a higher job than that. And the reason is because they don't have a lot of skills. But if you don't have a lot of skills, the best thing you can do is get a job so you can get some skills.
Well, I moved down to Puerto Rico full time about 3 years ago. January 2017 was when I first started. So I guess this is now my 4th year as Puerto Rican resident. There was a lot of factors that motivated that. I mean, the two most important being taxes and the weather, because I was living up in New England, in Connecticut, and I still like it up there, and I still spend time there. I'm going to be spending the summer there. That's why I'm flying back up to spend the summer in my house in Connecticut. I've been splitting my time between Connecticut and Puerto Rico. I've been spending more time in Puerto Rico. This is where I live. This is where my younger children go to school.
So the government has done some damage to the territories, but not as much damage as they're doing to the 50 states. So yet another reason for people to move to Puerto Rico. Not only do you get out from under the U.S. income tax, but you also get out from under Obamacare. And by the way, the Obamacare tax on dividends and capital gains, you're also exempt from that. So not only do you not have to pay the Obamacare taxes, but you don't have to live under the Obamacare system. Plus, you get the benefit of no U.S. income taxes, no tax at all on capital gains and dividends, and a meager 4% tax on your business income if you structure your business in the proper manner.
Sure. I mean, for a lot of Americans, if you have some wealth, if you have some businesses, for the privilege of renouncing your citizenship, the U.S. government imposes a very heavy tax. And if you don't want to pay that exit tax, if you just want to leave the country, no matter where you live, if you're earning money, the U.S. government wants its cut. That is uniquely American. Most countries, if their citizens travel abroad, they let them go freely. They're allowed to earn money and they're not subject to the tax. In fact, now they want to even revoke your passport if you owe more than $50,000 in taxes and turn this country into a giant debtor's prison. But Puerto Rico is kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's one of the only places, or maybe the only place in the world, where Americans can go and be free. We can be treated like citizens of any other country. If you go to Puerto Rico and earn money, the U.S. government doesn't tax you. Only the Puerto Rican government taxes you, and now they're not taxing you there either.
Summer jobs. And so there's nothing wrong with entry-level employment. There's nothing wrong with people learning the responsibility of having a job, of showing up, of customer service, of sales. I mean, my first jobs were all sales. I was selling subscriptions door to door. I was telephone sales of the Z Channel in California. I was knocking on doors selling cable television. I worked in a shoe store selling shoes. I mean,
you're hustling.
This is where my businesses are headquartered. Euro Pacific Asset Management, Euro Pacific Bank are two businesses that are now based in Puerto Rico, and I employ Puerto Ricans to help me run these businesses. So I'm, Puerto Rican, but the tax benefits are tremendous. My marginal tax rate is 4% here versus about 50% in Connecticut between state and federal taxes. Wow. Paying 4%. My capital gains tax rate is 0%. When I was in Connecticut, it was better than 30% between the federal and state government.
So a very, very substantial decline in my tax rate, which means I have a lot more money to do things for myself.
America is much worse than Puerto Rico as far as its fiscal situation. It's just that Puerto Rico's creditors have figured out how broke Puerto Rico is, but America's creditors haven't made the same obvious conclusion. But if we were forced to pay the same type of interest as Puerto Rico, America would be defaulting too.
But the businesses that are starting in Puerto Rico, where are they getting their revenues from? Is it mostly reliant on revenue from outside of Puerto Rico to be successful? I mean, can you do well as a business there, given the high unemployment and the struggling economy?
Well, absolutely. In fact, part of the requirement is you have to generate your income from outside of Puerto Rico to qualify for the tax exemption. You have to do the work in Puerto Rico, but you have to generate the revenue from outside of Puerto Rico. Now, I would hope that one day Puerto Rico will abolish the income tax for everybody so that nobody living in Puerto Rico has to pay any income taxes on anything they earn. That would be the best thing that can happen to Puerto Rico. But at least they've taken a step in the right direction. New people that come to the island, right, that bring their businesses, bring their entrepreneurship, their drive, their ingenuity, right? If they bring that to Puerto Rico and they can generate income in Puerto Rico by rendering services outside of Puerto Rico, they can do so without having to be subject to U.S. income taxes. Also, there's no capital gains taxes there. So if you make some investments and they pay off, you get to keep the profit. You don't have to cut in, your silent partner, the U.S. government, who's there when you succeed, but who doesn't share in the losses when you fail.
Have to go anywhere. I could just stay where I am. So I just enjoyed it. I mean, I would certainly encourage other people to look at Puerto Rico, and it's not just Americans. There are people from the UK that are here. I mean, anybody can enjoy the tax benefits. You don't have to be an American. I mean, they're particularly good for Americans because we don't have other choices. People from the UK, there's a whole world of tax havens that they can go to. But I think Puerto Rico is a nice place to live. So I think it should be on everybody's radar. But particularly if you're operating a business in the United States, or, a lot of people now are realizing they can work from home. I mean, that's part of the COVID-19 experience, is a lot of people that were going to an office and commuting into a city now realize that they can work from home. Well, if you can work from home, you can work from home in Puerto Rico.